Hello, everyone. This is Solaris BlueRaven, and you're listening to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. This is a pre-recorded show. It's pre-recorded for the date of April 18th, 2015. And, of course, the last 2 weeks of April I've taken off for my birthday and just kind of celebrating and resetting my own spiritual battery. So I wanted to keep these files available for you guys to be broadcasted while I'm away. Anyways, today I'm going to talk about esoteric teachings, mysticism, consciousness. We're going to dive into a lot of the stuff that I've been involved in over many decades and lifetimes, past, present, and future, in the illusion of, and try to give you some clarity insofar as what this is about and the definition of your own soul and where you're at on the timeline. So we'll get started here, and you are listening to Ravenstar's Witching Hour at freedomslips.com. And we are listener-supported, so if you do like what you hear, please click on the donate button and keep us alive and running here at the station. We certainly appreciate it. This is also a new moon today on the 18th, by the way. So new moon, new energies. It's a time to. It's a great time to cut your hair if you're getting your hair done. A good time to do that is on the new moon. So get out with the old, in with the new kind of thing. Cleaning the house, boogie blasting, clearing away the debris, astral debris, entities. All the gunked up stuff. It's a good time to plan new diets, whatever you're doing. It's really good to start it's a good time to start new projects and things like that. So, with that being said, take advantage of it. All right, I'm going to be talking about shadowing the self, and I touch on this a little bit in one of my books, but I think it's really important that people understand that you really don't have a dark side in a negative way. Most people don't. Usually, there's a side that's hidden, that's kind of in the subconscious, that connects into your soul record and a lot of your contracts, vows and contracts you've made before you entered onto the planet. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes there's vows and contracts. Other times there are not. Depends on the soul's blueprint and what the soul decides to do before it enters onto the timeline. Now, when I talk about shadowing the self, it merely means doing a check on yourself, doing a check on your behavior. Listen to yourself sometimes, and if it sounds like you're overcritical of yourself or others, or things come out of your mouth that don't align with your higher self or superconscious, take a second to look at these things and understand that sometimes when people kind of blurt out information, sometimes it could be mind control, and other times it can be lack of control. People don't have the control and the connection to source and the higher self or superconscious to a point where they're not respecting their own divinity, so they just start blurting out information and blurting out comments. And a perfect example of this, I suspect, would be people like trolls. Although a lot of those people get paid, but literally they just come out with very hateful comments, and I don't really get trolls. I don't even tolerate them. But that's just an example of people who don't have any self-esteem, usually low self-esteem. Most of the time they're programmed or getting paid to do that. So, and a lot of the times these people are just kind of like under the woodwork insofar as their evolutionary skills and IQs, and you have to look at it like that also. So I wouldn't take a lot of things personally. In other words, don't worry about what other people think of you. There's that saying I really love, what you think of me is none of my business. It's really so true. I don't care what anybody thinks about me, honestly. I mean, I've been through a hell that they'll never, ever be able to comprehend, and I've gotten through it very, very well. But I will say that through all of the abusive things that I've been through, the program, the Psychotronic program, and the covert technology, and the induction I went through, I still have grace, and I still have class and integrity and courtesy, and I believe those skills and those mindsets are actually from my martial arts background and also my spiritual background, a blend of the both. And those things still maintain themselves within me. So, you say what you will, but the nice thing is that once you're spiritually prepared for things, it seems to me like it's a lot easier to ride the waves, and especially if you're getting pulled into anything that's negative, whether it's bad relationship, business, or something horrific like what I went through with a covert tactical hardware and mind control tactical assault program, which is being deployed across the globe, by the way. And we might get into that later on, but I've talked enough about it that I think people are aware that that's a technological assault weapon that needs to be addressed. Okay, so shadowing the self would be also keeping a record of maybe a diary even. If you're working on your spiritual progressions and you want to look at yourself and see where you're at in consciousness, then, just kind of doing a reflection from day to day. It's like a review almost. It's almost like you live and die each day, and you review your life in that day, in that moment, in the illusion of time, and just kind of assess everything without any overreactive behavior, just kind of like a neutral sacred witness kind of behavior. But that really kind of teaches you what's going on in your life and what energies are influencing you. Sometimes people get agitated and feel more negative than they should be because of their situations, environmental situations. It could be toxicities in the atmosphere. It can be just anything from a bad government, bad religion, to bad relationships, bad workplace, that sort of thing. So it really does take its toll. And the best part of that is, if you see it ruining your life or destroying you, make the change, shift what's not working for you, redirect that flow, take control, take the helm, and do something productive that's going to benefit you, because as you benefit, you will benefit others. It's always that way. I mean, if I hadn't done the spiritual work on myself, I wouldn't be able to help anybody else. It really works that way. Martial arts is the same thing. You have to have your own skill set ascended and fine-tuned, and then you can go out and reach out to other people if you so choose. You don't even have to reach out to people, but you'll find that as you keep evolving and ascending spiritually, people are more and more attracted to you because they're lost. Some of them are very disembodied in their own forms. A lot of them have been hit with different types of assault programs and mind control, mind labs, and things like that. So a lot of that, people need help. People need assistance. There's no doubt about it. I don't like to do damage control or put out fires due to the negligence of a bad government and a bad religion. And I feel like I've had to do that for the past 11 years, to be honest. I don't like babysitting corporate. I don't like babysitting corporate DC, which is really the government. I'm tired of them. I'm tired of their negligence. I'm tired of their lack of maturity, their selfishness, their disrespect for people, for life forms. It's not okay to be an asshole. Oh, excuse me, I shouldn't say that on air. It's not okay to be that way, okay? It's not okay. Anybody who trained others into behaving that way really should be ashamed of themselves. You have to have integrity, you have to have class and respect and courtesy, and that goes a long, long way. Not only does it go a long way on one timeline, it goes a long way on other timelines as well. Now, when you're being hit with, like, for example, for my example, a psychotronic warfare program, which isn't a war game at all, and you get hit with things like that, there's no place to run. You can't leave your body. You're being attacked from within by an exterior source and weapon, so it's a little bit more difficult to escape that. And what you'll find is that you cannot be cornered in your own body, and you'll have to have the oversoul, soul ascension, the soul frequency, everything that's connected to your higher self, oversoul, superconscious, integrated, really counter the internal attack from an exterior source. And that's what happens with psychotronic warfare, covert tactical hardware, assault programs, artificial telepathy, synthetic telepathy, and all these things that have been used, unfortunately, as a weapon instead of an evolutionary asset. And, I mean, I can tell you, I've been through the synthetic telepathy, which you can call artificial telepathy, that's fine. But literally, I knew what could be used, what it could be used for. I knew the positives about it. I presented that data. I stayed very positive for so long. But when you get beaten down and beaten down and beaten down by tactical hardware, you have to counter it. You can't let people do that to you. You can't let people corner you in a ring in a fight. That's not okay. You're going to have to fight your way out of it. And I'm a very offensive fighter in a sense that, and I'm fine with people as long as they don't screw with me, and then I'll come out and I don't put up with anything. So, and thank goodness I do have that warrior spirit, because I think it helps get me through a lot of these transitional assault programs that I went through starting in 2004. Now, coming into the fruition of April, well, my birthday is coming up, and obviously I'm taking the time off, and this is why I'm doing these pre-recorded shows, is to take a break and recalibrate. Look at what kind of damage has been done. I've assessed my suit for many years now to see what kind of damage has been done by this tactical hardware. And I can tell you some of the symptoms associated with psychotronic programs, mind control that is based on covert tactical hardware, electronic warfare, electromagnetic warfare, and things that are related to artificial intelligence and synthetic telepathy. And if they're misusing and abusing and they're trying to create alters in you and brainwash you, then you'll find that, well, first of all, there's no rest time at all. You don't get to sleep, ever. When you rest, you're constantly being programmed and you're constantly hearing dialogue and you're constantly being hit with psychotronic feeds and visuals. Now, this is in the early days of when I was inducted, by the way. I don't get this anymore because I fought my way away from it. But I will tell you this is the tactical hardware they use for mind control, induction, programming to try to break you down so they can rebuild you. And it's the same thing they do in the military, except with this, they're a little more abusive. I would say a lot more abusive. And there's no place to run and hide. You don't have anybody to support you because most of the time they're part of the problem and not the solution unless they're really educated in the technology itself. So a lot of the symptoms, that's one of them, literally no sleep, constant narrative. If you're trying to eat, if you're trying to drink, they can do remote tactical assault on you to a point where they can make you choke, have spasms, They can cause you to have seizures if they really wanted to. They could take you to the floor through vertigo. They can, I mean, I'm just going through a list of things that they can do with these tactical hardware with remote tactical access to a target. It's really not a good thing. But the reason I'm telling you is because when I look at all this stuff, I'm pretty sure that it can be easily deployed and be put in the hands of people who really shouldn't have access to it. And once things get militarized and weaponized and federalized, you don't know who's going to have access to this technology. It can become it can go real bad real quick. Let's put it that way. You can fight it. You can fight the tactical hardware, but the first part of fighting something like that through an induction is not getting tagged. It's fighting the induction itself. And then that would pretty much keep you away from being manipulated. I think that the problem I always had with this technology, and I'm very big on technology. I love ascended technology. I really do. But I didn't approve of the misuse of technology. You know, I'm kind of like the Tesla. I like to see technology used for the best of mankind, not for the worst. I understand war. I understand the illusion of war and the puppets and the puppet masters and all the pawns on the chessboard. But the bottom line, in the end of ends, in the illusion of time, when it's all said and done, nothing is accomplished through war. Nothing. They think it is, but it's not. And if people could just coexist, and if they were just plugged in to their higher self, oversoul, superconscious, and if they were just plugged into source energy without being programmed by religion and corporations and all this other crap that they've been saturated in since their birth on the timeline, they would realize that they wouldn't have wars. They wouldn't be fighting. They wouldn't be squabbling because everything is abundance. Everything is based on higher consciousness. Consciousness is the key to evolution, and everybody knows it. Everybody who's done the spiritual work, that is. So that's one thing. Another symptom would be not necessarily nosebleeds, although I do know that people who have severe implantation do get nosebleeds. That's very, very popular. I always had the clear discharge, and it's not sinus. It's literally just like, it's hard to explain, but it's more from the transmission of the technology itself that just it just makes you have a constant drain of fluid. Okay, it's almost like brain fluid. It's really not good. If I had to go into it more deeply, I would say it's more like having, they have the potential to create aneurysms. Let's put it that way. So when I was inducted, I had a lot of that going on. I had a lot of bad things happening to me in the beginning, and they knew it, by the way, and they didn't care. They didn't stop perpetuating the war crime. They didn't stop pushing me. They didn't stop stressing me out. They didn't stop manipulating me. They just didn't back off at all. And if anybody reads my book, Either Remote Black Operations in Areas Beyond 52, they'll understand what I went through. Very ugly, ugly, ugly program. And I've moved on from it, but I do like to communicate the technology because I want people to understand some of the things that they do that are very abusive, that are more abusive than you could possibly imagine. I mean, most people can wake up every day and have silence in their brain and their mind, have peace, not feel like they're being manipulated or attacked every day. If I had to describe some of the technology that they use, it's similar to what people would describe as a possession insofar as something attacking you 24 hours a day and taking you over, but it's tactical hardware. It's electronic possession. Okay, so it's a total technological war program. It has nothing to do with the demon, nothing to do with God, nothing to do with angels or minions or archons or anything like that. So you're dealing with tactical hardware, an assault program that uses the mind and the brain as a weapon against itself. And that's the technology that they're using. So why I was pulled in as a civilian to this stuff, I know that at the time, and I've mentioned this many times over, the reason being, I'm sure of it, was because of my skill level as a true remote viewer, as a true psychic, as a true multidimensional being. The abilities I have, the electrical circuitry, the wiring I have, my Merkaba signal that was really amped up. I mean, there are a lot of things about me and my wiring that fit what they needed for a candidate for this program. And also a lot of things pertaining to the band Rush and Neil Peart's personal agenda and what he wanted insofar as pulling me into the program, which, of course, they were the culprits behind, and they still are insofar as the original induction goes. They were the real people involved, and there's no way in hell that will ever change. So these things do get delegated to other divisions, and other people stick their noses in the path. That happened a lot. It attracts a lot of attention. So, but I do know that a lot of other people along the way and along the timeline over the years have been inducted in various programs. I mean, it's not the one I went through, but there are different programs with different parties involved, different people, and it goes from not just gaslighting or gang stalking, but literally an induction for My Lab's military abductions, preparation for Manchurian candidates, mind control candidates where they can be triggered remotely and be able to fulfill a mission or a purpose at the time they're supposed to be, activated, so to speak. You want to talk about sleeper cells? Well, this is a whole thing about sleeper cells. You can program these people, and they will literally be activated by transmission frequency, possible codes, possible colors, handlers, and people who look like handlers. That's another trigger, too. So if you have somebody who has severe programming and the person they encounter looks just like their handler, that's a trigger for them. That will trigger these people. And I'm not controlled and I'm not mind controlled, but they did try to program me severely back in 2004 or 5, and I would say around 6. They attacked me quite a bit. I didn't kind of break away from that until 2007, 2008. And then 2009 and 10, I really started gaining more power. It was over the transition of many, many years that I've actually not only calibrated through the technology, but have ascended beyond the technology. However, my body has taken a huge toll and a huge hit against some of the things that were done to me, and I've mentioned that before. So the reason I'm taking some time off, once again, is to kind of just reboot my battery and focus on my what's left of my life, literally, because 11 years were stolen from me. I can't get those years back. 11 years of your life taken away, and it may not seem like much to you, but, 11 years of your best this is like my prime, almost the prime of my life that they took away. The best years, and also my marriage and happiness and things else, everything else that they sucked away too. So, and this is done with a malicious intent, by the way. When people do things like this, they're not caring about you or your family or your loved ones or anything, your animals, nothing. They don't care about anything. They just want to pull you into something to harm you. This wasn't about really doing anything beneficial to me, although I'm a beneficial to them insofar as how I ran the technology, but still, they didn't do anything that they were really doing anything for me on my behalf. It was more about control, manipulation, good cop, bad cop kind of thing, programming. The handler was nice, the handler was evil, that sort of thing. That kind of polarization that goes back and forth, and it's just really not appropriate, which is why I testified about it in 2006. But anyways, not to go really, really deep down that path, but I do want to give you some clarity insofar as, what this entails. So over the years, as the years progress, when people have the integration with neural, remote implantation, which is really based on a signal anomaly, mine is anyway, you can go through a different type of transition where the body gets more dehydrated, the body has a hard time functioning because it needs more light, it needs more prana. You'll notice that this tactical hardware pulls on the life force, pulls on the chi, pulls on your soul frequency. It can't steal your soul, but it certainly can pull and feed like a parasite feeds, which is not healthy. Now, let me tell you something as well. This technology can be used as a booster to it, as a boost. It can boost psychic ability, remote viewing, physical activity. It can boost just about anything. It's how they use it. If they want to help you, they'll help you, but then they'll try to attack you. They'll try to create this border for you, this box for you, so that if you don't go out or if you don't conform to what they want, then they can torture you remotely. But then they try to reward you with certain things. But really, what they're doing is interfering, because naturally, I didn't need an artificial intelligence program to earn my black belt. I trained very hard for that, and I obviously have my black belt and beyond. So it wasn't about having to be integrated with an artificial intelligence to be a better athlete. They got a good athlete to begin with me, okay? And they really, really milked that over the years as well, I must say. So that's just to kind of give you an example. Some other things go on with the blood that happen. You'll notice that they come out kind of strange. Tests will come out strange. I had things happen to me on Maui where I had to get my lungs x-rayed, and there was something in there that didn't look normal. It wasn't cancer, and it wasn't. The guy just was puzzled. He just stared and looked at it, couldn't figure out what it was. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, where you have things and anomalies that happen where it's really hard to explain. Regular mainstream doctors don't know what to look for, so they won't understand it. Some people, if they're lucky enough, like with the Morgellons people, well, they're not lucky at all. But if they actually do get MRIs and things like that, and they actually show up. Now, sometimes implants don't show up. Sometimes the signal anomalies, like what I have, doesn't show up as easily because it's like a smart bomb. The thing knows how to cloak. So it's not all the time. But a lot of people will have some certain types of implants that will show up on MRIs, or even sometimes on an X-ray. It depends on the type of implantation, especially if it's one of these solid implants, and sure, they'll show up. And of course, the late Dr. Roger Leir was notorious for looking at these things, and of course Steve Colburn, who also was involved in that for a long time as well. So he did my implant analysis scan, by the way. So, and every time I tried to get an MRI, the machine would break down. So I know that was part of the program, and I know that was part of me interfering with the transmissions and the frequency and the frequency associated with that machine as well. So just to give you ideas here, insofar as what we go through, what people go through who have been inducted or tagged or pulled into a program of some kind or another, whether it's a military abduction, MyLab, what we call MyLabs. Some people say it MilLab. I call it MyLab. With mine, it was the artificial intelligence assault technology, remote viewing, and pattern recognition. I really think they were trying to create alters in me. I really think they were trying to pull me in for some kind of a program, but I fought it really hard, and I'm very adamant about things. I have a very strong personality. I have one dominant personality, which is me. So, and that's my higher self. I was so superconscious, so I wasn't really a good candidate for being programmed per se. Traumatized, yes, but not programmed. I mean, it's harder to program an adult than it is a child. Now, you take a child and you pull them into these programs, that's it, man. They're toast. And I've mentioned this many times over on my interviews. If you take a kid and pull them in through these induction programs where they're being psychotronically programmed like Montauk, forced visuals, sexually assaulted remotely by some perverted piece of crap, you've got programming, good and bad cop programming, where the good handler, the bad handler, interrogation, judgment day programming. They do judgment day programming where they sit there and judge you and try to go. What they do is they'll go through a database of what they think they have on you, like say what NSA would acquire, and they'll use it as a weapon against you and interrogate you privately through the communication system. And they'll take anything and everything you've ever done that they have a record of and try to use it against you. And sometimes it's not even a record. Sometimes it's a manufactured forensics kind of elaborate lie, which they're just trying to come up with, like they'll come up with words to see if it triggers you in some way, see if it triggers a memory. They do that a lot. They'll try to pull things into your orbit. They replicate people's voice patterns and use it to broadcast at you, and with the psychotronic and the synthetic telepathy and artificial intelligence. Excuse me, and they did that with my mother at her funeral in 2004. And I knew it was not my mother. I knew it was not her spirit or her ghost. So these are the things that they do to replicate, to put you in a space of vulnerability and trust. And they did that with my mom. And I thought it was just completely an abomination of her funeral. It seems to me like they were very interested in her transfer. And as I look back at it now, it's really frustrating and it's very disconcerting to me because my induction was in April of 2004, and my mother passed away in June of 2004. Now, my mother wasn't in the worst health. She wasn't in the best health, but she certainly wasn't in the worst health. But I'll tell you, worst health. But I'll tell you point blank, I mean, I'm very suspicious if she wasn't remotely murdered by the program and the technology because, and I don't say this, and I've never said it on air, but she was not in that kind of, her health was not that bad. And she went in and then she had a stroke and she transferred out. But they knew about her transfer. They were monitoring her transfer. And if you read my book, Either Remote Black Operations in Areas Beyond 52, it's very eerie. There's some things that are very, very eerie in that book about the dead transferring out, the band, Parrott, Bossbach, Geddy Lee, Alex Lifeson, and the people that were involved remotely attending my mother's funeral with me, in communication with me, live feed real time, the type of what I would call maybe a dark ceremony that took place that wasn't so nice. I'm very suspicious of things because when people deploy a tactical hardware like that and they do it with carelessness and they don't seem to care about you, your relationships, your loved ones, your family, your pets, whatever, you have to ask yourself, and I don't know, I don't have the real answer to what happened, but I will tell you it's very suspicious. And the more I know about the technology, the more I know what it can do to people remotely. I will say that a lot of people have a hard time with they always are very suspicious of Masons. And I've mentioned several times over, I come from a long lineage of Masons on my mother's side, and they're very high-ranking. And I don't have a problem with the ones that were in my mother's family. They were wonderful people, good souls, nice beings. I'm not saying they were perfect, but they certainly weren't bad people, okay? I do think that people associated with a bloodline, whether it's a spiritual bloodline or what we call the celestial bloodline, which is based on consciousness and off-world intelligence, we are tracked, we are looked at. We do get pulled into covert programs for one reason or another. And sometimes they do take those brain templates and they try to use them and deploy them on others for a hive collective. So when I look at this whole thing on that spectrum, I can see why certain bloodlines are being tracked and certain people are being pulled into programs like that. So, I mean, that's all I'll say about what happened. But I do and am still suspicious of my mother's transfer. And I do think that she probably, had I not been inducted into that program in April, I think she would have been alive today. I mean, or at least lived a lot longer. I mean, I could be wrong, but honestly, I think there's something associated with that. I just get a bad vibe about it. And looking back in reflection to everything that's happened to me, I'm starting to reanalyze everything on a very, very fine-tuned level. So, on a very technological level, because at the time I was so traumatized I wasn't even communicating verbally. I was so hit with the trauma of the communication system. My handler and Michael J. Mosbach was literally just running me over verbally in my own body remotely, and he knows it. So anyways, that's what they do. That's their tactical program. That's their covert tactical program. And, of course, it relates to air interrogation and things like that. Now, if you look and see what's going on in corporate on this planet, what I call the corporate government, because they're just a corporation, you'll see that they try to use words and twist them around. Everything they say that they try to sound valid is actually invalid. So you have to kind of flip it upside down and inside out when you're trying to assess anything on this planet. It's all upside down. The data, if they're saying they're good people, they're actually evil people. I mean, it goes inside out. I mean, it's really strange, but that's what they're doing. So it's a mirror that's been broken, so to speak. There's a lot of that going on here. And they're deploying a lot of this technology, like I said. I feel bad for the people with Morgellons. I don't have Morgellons. Some people have asked me that before. I do know people who do have it, who claim to have it. Obviously, I think Joni Mitchell's actually claimed to have it. I just saw an article on her not too long ago. You know, and this is not a myth, for crying out loud. This is a tactical hardware. This is a remote tactical assault technology that's killing people. It's a murder weapon. It murders people very easily. It destroys people's lives. I mean, you're getting these fibers and these type of nano type of artificial design that's coming out of your skin, for crying out loud. And look around you and see the chemtrails and all these chemicals that they're spraying, these aerosols. All these contaminants. The body does know how to adapt. I'll tell you that much. It's pretty strong because it's not just carbon to silicon. I mean, we are silicon-based because we have crystalline structure. And if anybody knows esoteric teachings, you'll understand that we are frequency and consciousness, and we have a crystalline design. So it's carbon into silicon is really what we are. So we are actually supercomputers. Our design is that. So we're actually hardwired to be merged with artificial intelligence. There's no doubt about it. Transhumanism, though, is their version of the AI. So what you're dealing with is man's version of the technology interfaced with your celestial design work, which doesn't mesh well because they have an agenda. Anytime somebody's trying to control, manipulate you, program you, stop you from ascending in consciousness, stop you from focusing on things that are beneficial to you at the highest level, you know there's something wrong. All churches, and I don't care how religious people are, I don't care. Every church out there is based on controlling and manipulating the masses. The whole idea behind a church, a religious organization, which is really a corporation, is to pull you in, suck you in, and to control and manipulate your psyche so that you're not able to navigate on a higher level of consciousness. They do it all the time. This has been the ultimate weapon on this world. And of course, corporations are the same thing. Religion is a corporation. You have to look at it like that. It's nothing against the people that attend the churches. They're very good souls. They're lost sometimes, or sometimes they're not. They have faith. They believe. But unfortunately, they delegate their power to people who don't deserve to have access to it. And that's what happens. And I can say that with anyone and anything. I've seen good and bad in every organization, every religion, every corporation. They will bleed you to death. They will milk your energy field. They've always been threatened by evolution. They've always been threatened by consciousness. They've always been threatened by mysticism. The witch hunts and the persecution that went on at the ancient mystery schools, and those of us who teach the language of light and teach the language of mysteries through transfiguration and consciousness. We always have been attacked. We've always been snuffed out. And somehow, through the law of grace, by universal grace, we have survived as a lineage, and we keep going. And we're here to still be anchors and beacons of light, to anchor and run the energy onto the timeline while we're here. That's huge, because right now, I don't have to tell everybody to put special glasses on. We're dealing in times where people need enlightenment. They need encouragement. They need to be self-empowered. They need to know how to train on the highest level of consciousness, mentally, physically, spiritually. They need to understand how to survive. I'm not talking like a survivalist. I'm just talking the normal things. How do you maintain yourself if you don't have all these things that the government's giving you, and the illusion of government? People know how to survive deep down. It's in their cellular structure and their DNA. It doesn't mean that you go and become a cannibal. The universe does provide, and the universe will help you, but you have to work with the universe. You cannot be separate from it and act separate from it and disengage from the bigger picture, because when you disengage from the bigger picture and you start getting tunnel vision and you start seeing just the linear world of corporations and religion and money and control and greed and sex, then you're lost. And nobody can help you out of that but you. Sometimes religion can be a mirror, and sometimes you'll find a good priest once in a while, or somebody or a priestess, and who can help you along your path. But don't count on it, and don't delegate your power to these people. Use them as sounding boards. Talk to them if you need to, but really move on to the next level, which is about spirituality and consciousness. And that's really big. So I didn't want to digress, but I did want to talk a little bit about some of the technology so that some people have an idea I know a lot of people just don't get it. They seem to think that somehow when you're inducted into these covert programs, it's all about, oh, you hear voices, or no, it's not voices. It's a mock radio communication system. It's artificial intelligence interface with you're being interfaced with artificial intelligence, okay, with neural circuitry. Everybody's naturally telepathic. It's just a matter of opening up the channel. I mentioned this also on my book. I remember the night they opened up the communication system and patched into my electromagnetic field and my neural circuitry. I remember that moment he opened up the communication system. Okay, this is real technology. I mean, I was very lucid and awake. I wasn't dreaming. That's the thing. I remember them when they tagged my chest cavity with the communication system and an anomaly signal, and I remember it was very painful. It almost felt like I was dying when they did that. So there are a lot of things that they can do remotely. And once again, you have to understand this can be positive too. I mean, in the sense that you can heal people remotely. I mean, a lot of these people that say they've been healed in their sleep, or I'm really wondering if it's not part of the Black Technology Space Program. I believe that sometimes there are good people out there that try to do the good fight. In the past, before I was inducted into these programs, I've always had what we call star consciousness beings working on me. I mean, I've always had celestials working on me. I've always had support from the full light universe, whatever you want to call the highest form of celestials. So to some people they're like angelic. The archangels are celestials, whether you want to reference them like that or not, it doesn't really matter. But literally, you're dealing with beings of consciousness, light consciousness beings who are happy to help you, who are happy to heal you, who want you to be enlightened, who want your DNA activated, who don't want to shut you down, who want you to be switched on, who want you to be part of the multiversal neighborhood. I mean, they want you to ascend and grow and evolve. That's what we're here for. We're not here to play these stupid games on this planet. Now, there are some rotten apples here on this planet, real bad, and they're trying to derail everybody and stop everybody from progressing, which, of course, we're putting a stop to. I mean, even shows like mine, I address things that I know need to be addressed so that somehow, some way, you'll be triggered in a positive way. You'll be enlightened in a positive way. Okay, so anyways, just to give you a few bits of information there. A lot of people who claim to have spirits and ghosts around them, once again, this is something I wanted to touch on real briefly. That can be remote access and surveillance being done in your home. And that can be people mingling and kind of meddling in your life with mock radio communications signals, and you have to be careful of that. So not everything is a ghost or a spirit. Sometimes it can be manufactured. Sometimes it comes from the psyche, and sometimes it doesn't. You have to realize that we have many bands of energy and transmissions and frequency around us, and all of these are like dimensional portals and spaces where you can access communication, spirits, dialogue. It's like a universal highway. And sometimes it's legitimately, spirits and ghosts, what we call ghost spirits. And also, other times it's manufactured and actually a mock signal, which is used by covert intelligence programs. This is where it gets really sticky, because if you look at a lot of people who have had, quote-unquote, guidance from these entities or whatever they are, you have to ask yourself, where was it coming from? Where's the source? It's really big. You need to know the source of your communication systems. You need to understand what's creating the source dialogue. I'm not talking source as in the full light universe. I'm talking in the source of what these people are doing with their communication systems and how they're accessing you, which is part of the covert surveillance program, by the way. So, this is food for thought for you guys, because what it will do is help you along your way in recognizing certain transmissions and signals, and also, don't give all your power to something unless you actually have the facts on it, unless you actually know what you're dealing with, because you don't give your power to something that's inanimate or something that's manufactured, something that's based on a bad program by somebody who's a programmer, controller, manipulator, handler. You don't want to be stuck in that realm. So pay attention. We talked about shadowing the self. That's really big. I will touch a little bit on the cerebral controlled enabled games. That's going on where you have a lot of that, where people in general have access to games where they can use their mind, their brains, to actually manipulate games. That's part of the, you can do that with airplanes and everything else. So once people start mastering the remote control interface, they'll understand that they're able to navigate and be able to influence anything. But you don't need the computer to tell you that. The thing is, you are already wired for that through consciousness. Your supercomputer mind, when you're fully using your mind, 100% brain, let's call it that, the mind is separate from the brain. When you're using your brain, you literally are able to do everything that the quote-unquote artificial intelligence that's manufactured by these covert intelligence programs tells you. You can navigate symbiotic craft. You can affect people through consciousness in a positive way. If you start a psychic war against somebody, hold on to your butt, because you're going to get your butt kicked if the person knows what you're doing. Voodoo hitmen don't have a chance with me. People who try their psychic attacks against me will get thrown out windows really quick in the on the astral plane. You know what I mean? I don't put up with crap. And but you need to know how to, like I said, it's just like martial arts. It's a step into another dimensional space on a martial arts level. You're still using your body, mind, and spirit on a higher level of consciousness and being able to understand and navigate and deflect attacks. So that does happen. But what I want you to understand is that everything they're trying to pass off as immortality is really based on you alone. You have the immortality. Your soul's immortal. What you are is immortal. You don't need their technology to be immortal. It's a detour. It's just like it's a shortcut to nowhere. Let's put it that way. I do know what the technology can be used for. I've mentioned it a billion times over. It would make a great astronaut. You could do wonderful things with the technology. And had they just been a little more professional with me, I think they would have understood that we would have had a neutral balance. But I cannot allow people to torture me, harass me, program me, attack me, put me through Judgment Day, and all sorts of crap because they're illiterate and they think they have access to be able to be bullies. I just can't tolerate that. That's not appropriate behavior. And where I come from in the full light universe, as a soul and multidimensional being, that's not acceptable. So that's where I stand with it. Sometimes, these programs create the lost memories or the screen memories, and that's really big as well. It's really strange with people because a lot of people think they have memories, and I'll tell you, just from my own experience, sometimes when you have memories, it's usually somebody else's memory that's reminding you of something. I don't know if you've had a situation where maybe you've had a sibling or a family member say, well, you remember when you did this or remember when you did that, and you're like, no, I don't remember, and they do. That's because that's their memory, okay? Experience is experience, and what happens is as we progress and we go through cycles of what you want to consider a memory, it ascends. It becomes an experience. It doesn't become something that's stuck as a fractal where it's constantly haunting you. I see that a lot with mind control games that they try to use lost or manufactured fractals or memories to program a target, and that's all false matrices. That's all false. It has no validity whatsoever. Everything you do from second to second transcends. Photographs change as soon as the picture's taken. Okay, the energy, the frequency, all of it shifts. So nothing is stuck. Nothing. And I don't care what anybody tells you. Everything is constantly in motion and constantly moving. I wanted to touch on that a little bit because I saw a lot of that going on. They like to keep you in a space of being a child or being vulnerable or being, weak. And it's like it's all about breaking you down and keeping you in a space of vulnerability. It's not about empowering you. If you're a strong, empowered woman, that's huge. That's intimidating. And I can tell you, I think there's a bit of a war on women these days, especially with the Muslims. And I don't know what their freaking problem is, but, they obviously hate women enough to try to butcher them 24 hours a day. And that crap's stopping big time, putting a stop to that. The goddess is putting a stop to that. But literally, it's out of control, and there's a great disrespect for the feminine, for the divine feminine. And, a lot of women, as I've mentioned this many times before, are the real powerful shamans. They're the ones that really know how to anchor and run the energy, and the real powerful healers, medicine women. I know that they don't like to call, in the Native Americans, a lot of them don't like to call women shamans. Well, I'm a shaman, and I don't care if they like it or not. That's part of my heritage. It's part of my celestial heritage. These are things that I've integrated in that were actually part of me way before I even realized it. You have these skills and these things that are there, and all of a sudden they just start coming into fruition. I don't know how many times people ask, how do you know these things? How are you able to do that? Where did you learn to do that? It's cellular memory. It's cellular memory. So once again, know the soul is an androgynous thing, and whatever suit you're occupying, whether it's a male or female, that's groovy, that's great, doesn't matter. It's your suit, respect it. It's a sacred temple. I don't really understand why people have to have the sex change thing, but that's their call, that's their deal. I do think that it's really not relevant, but if that's what makes them comfortable, I guess that's what makes them comfortable. I don't know why they're not comfortable in their own skin. I think a lot of that has to do with being manipulated, programmed, maybe even mind controlled to some degree. So, really take a second look at that. If you're feeling like you're being affected by something that's making you want to change that to that degree, you might want to look at mind control and see if you've been influenced psychologically from a childhood or a handler or somebody, because it just doesn't sound like it's coming from the full light universe. It's some of the things that people are doing these days is more of a mutilation, and it doesn't make any sense to me. It seems like it's more of the entity-controlled stuff. So, if you have that much fear in you, you might want to flush out the fear and replace it with full light. So, not to give a big lecture on that, but I do see a lot of that going on. And if you're comfortable in your skin, you can be androgynous. You can be male, female. You don't have to sit there and change your physical appearance to accommodate somebody else. And I see a lot of things like, is it the in thing? I don't know. Is it? I think this whole planet is distorted. I think that there's a huge distortional program that's being run across the board on a holographic level, which is affecting people psychologically. And, I'm stubborn as hell. I mean, when I look and see what they've done to me from 2004, and I see how powerful I've become mentally, physically, and spiritually, I'm like, damn, I'm almost proud of myself. I'm just not compromised. And, I would make an awesome astronaut, to be honest with you. I'm too old now, but, I would have made a great astronaut because I can ride the technology out. And they knew that. And I was always holding the vision for higher consciousness, for positive things and always thinking, oh, these guys will come around, it'll be okay. And it just wasn't. They never came around except to stab me in the back in the courtroom. So anyways, they are on tour, by the way. Yeah, have fun, guys. But, that's another scenario altogether. So anyways, that's what I wanted to kind of touch on with the lost or altered memories, which of course sometimes are manufactured. And the way to get through these things is through emotional clearing, mental clearing, physical clearing sessions where you can actually go through and just clear anything that's actually holding you in limitation and the illusion of. A lot of people have emotional issues for whatever reason, whether it's from childhood or relationships. Some people have been hurt through relationships, so you have to heal. Because what happens is when you heal, your emotional body's hurting, it affects your physical body. It will affect your vitals. So you have to learn how to heal that. And you heal that through light, by the way. You don't heal it through psychology games. You don't heal it through going to, okay, what's the matter, Johnny? Let's go here. Okay, we're right here. Let's go to this room and let's see what's going on here. That's not how it works. You basically heal people through light. No words need to be said. The full light universe doesn't sit there and bombard you with psychological warfare. The full light universe knows how to heal you through frequency, photons, higher consciousness. It's just real easy. And once you get that frequency, it changes everything. It changes your DNA. It puts you in such a space of awakening that you're like, wow, it's almost like it's like getting a light body. You let go and you shed the old skin and you get the new one. And the new one is like full light. It's all amped up and harmonic. It's fantastic. So that's really what it is. The mental body, like I said, it has a tendency to overanalyze things. It can be really cerebral. But that's okay. I mean, it's okay to analyze things. It's okay to be analytical. But you have to kind of have a balance between the two. And, of course, balancing the hemispheres is huge. If you look at any mind control programs and psychotronic hardware programs, they're always about trying to control the hemispheres of the brain. In the past, when I've done a lot of healing work on people, that's the first thing I work on is their crown. First thing I work on is balancing those hemispheres. And I think it's really interesting how I always knew how to do that. And then they hit me with a program where they try to throw that off. And I'm like, no way are you throwing me off because my hemispheres are already balanced, buddy. So, sometimes when they integrate you with the artificial intelligence, it's like having several brains. It's like having, 4 brains instead of whatever. That's what they do. They create artificial templates, which can take on the form of a personality or an alter. So just to keep you, just to give you an idea. Okay, let's see, what else do we have here? So obviously, I think, a lot of people touch on the water and transition of water. And we're having some things going on with the planet right now with water. It's my impression that water in general, that's what's here on this planet, is actually not from here and actually is as an off-world intelligent design. Not only is it intelligent through consciousness, and not only does it store memory and can be programmed and altered, it's really the water. It truly reminds me of Dune. It's the water of life. But you're dealing with something that's not from here. You're dealing with an alien life form. Now, we are very much, 75% water at least in the body. It used to be, I think it's higher than that if I'm not mistaken. But literally, we have a lot of water in our bodies. And that's a conductor, a purifier when it's pure. And also, it changes. It has all these different fractals of consciousness. And when I talk about consciousness, I'm talking about universal memory banks, universal consciousness, data streams of multidimensional reality. So that's really big. So when you access those things through cellular memory, your water, the water is very sacred. So you can see why they're trying to hoard resources here on the planet, but what they're not understanding is the water itself is really alien to Earth, which is a terraformed rock to begin with. But literally, the water itself is foreign, and we are foreign too. We are star beings. I've said this a billion times over. You can call yourself whatever you want, but please don't call yourself human. You're not a human. You never were. You never will be. That's what they call you on the earth. That's what they call you on the timeline, because that's how they put you in a space of control. Oh, you're only human. You make mistakes. Look at this is human. No, you're not human. That's your suit. You occupy it. You're a star being. You have cellular memory. You come from the full light universe. You don't remember. You have amnesia, and you need to remember. Okay, this is really what I'm putting it down to. Trying to keep it as basic as I can, but you know this. If you look at your molecular breakdown and your molecular structures, the DNA, frequencies, we're all a representation in a mirror image of the universe, the multiverse, macroverse, what do you want to call it, microverse. It's the same thing. It's all interconnected. It's all part of the same equation. It's about memory. It's about universal memory, not childhood memories, but universal cellular memory, where you understand the essence of origin, where you understand consciousness, where you understand evolution is what navigates us into other universes and star systems. This is huge, because without evolution, without spiritual evolution, and you can have technological evolution, but if you don't have spiritual evolution merged with technological evolution, you go nowhere. And obviously mankind is right there, teetering in between the world. So you'll see that. You have to have both, and you must have spiritual evolution. This doesn't mean that you're a religious fanatic. This doesn't mean that you're, sitting there playing Judgment Day and, you're afraid of the end times or whatever. This means that you've let go of the wheel of all the coarse, subhuman, false matrices, and you've embraced the full light universe, and with that comes your divinity. Your divine beings, the law of grace, whatever you want to call it, it's there. You just don't remember it. That's all. Most people don't, and now they run programs to interfere with that so that you don't have a memory of who you are as a multidimensional being. If I could say anything about why we're here on the timeline and the illusion of those of us who are star people, star beings, who are incarnated here on the timeline, I would have to say we're probably here as a mirror image to awaken you to something, to wake you up out of the false matrix, to show you that you don't belong here, that this whole world is actually merging and morphing into something else, and that the false matrix of man has been a lie and a deception game from day one. Now, when I entered onto the timeline, did you think I would ever be talking about this stuff? No. But I always knew I was an ascended master consciousness. I always knew things. And I mean, that's where you know, when you're born a master, and they talk about this a lot, when you incarnate on the timeline, you're born a master. You're born with knowing. You're born with the skills and the evolutionary and the spiritual evolutionary skills of the full light universe. And that just comes with you. And sometimes through regular linear programming in schools, education systems, parenting that's not good, a family situation, relationships, work, all of that's entrainment. If you look at everything you're doing on the timeline is entrainment, and that's why I always say if you're going to have a profession, do what makes you happy at least, and try to benefit people on a higher level. Do something inspiring. Do something that's going to help people or benefit them to some degree, instead of being somebody who's stealing their money or their bank accounts or harming them or try to pick a good profession while you're here, man. That's all I have to say about it. And I think that, the holistic homeopathic route is a really good route. Obviously they come down on that a lot because they know it works. A lot of holistic medicine works. And if people were really fine-tuned in frequency, we wouldn't have the illnesses that are going on the planet right now. The world would not be sick. Gaia would not be sick, or what you call the Earth, whatever you want to call this planet. It wouldn't be ill at all. But mankind has poisoned it and poisoned it and poisoned it, and look at what's happening to people. They're dying early. Even though they say they live a lot older now, well, I'm not really believing that because people are being saturated in poison. I mean, it's amazing to me we're not all dead yet because of the stuff that they've been unloading on us. The stuff we do know, and then there's the stuff we don't know, right, which is a lot, and that's a lot of toxicity. And no wonder the poor little body that you occupy, you need to thank your bodies for even putting up with you and putting up with the crap that goes on this planet, because that's a lot of toxicity. That's all there is to it. So I was trying to get on the soapbox here, but it's important to talk about some of this stuff. I think I'm like 48 minutes into the show, which is okay. I'm trying to keep this to a point where I can actually make sure we have break commercials or the break that we normally have at the station, so that I can make sure it's all balanced out. So, of course, we are listener supported, so please donate to the station if you feel guided to do so at Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.